Good afternoon, everyone. It's 12:16 p.m., March 6, 2023. Second insert today because I'm trying to crush some time in moving forward. So our objective was not just to, or is not just to deliver bad news, but to come up with solutions. And our ultimate objection or objective is to get our projects done. So again, this is being thrown out as a pre-invitation to anybody that has an interest in owning property or developing property in Montego Bay, Jamaica, to look at what we will be doing in another couple of weeks. And if we have any objections or opposition from local government or the Jamaica government, guess what? We take it someplace else. We have the potential of building in Florida or other areas of the country. We're looking at Atlanta, we're looking at the Carolinas, we're looking at Georgia in general, and we're looking at the Caribbean islands. In fact, I was doing a whole bunch of research on preferable islands that we probably would be looking at. And believe it or not, physiologically, Jamaica is probably the best place for any major investment because of the location to North America, Central America, Cuba, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and all the other islands. We're kind of in an ideal position. And based on the fact that I am familiar with the quality of the people in Jamaica, I know that we can have really, really good people coming out of Jamaica to deliver services for these projects. I think that's where we want to be. So I mentioned a couple of weeks ago when we're doing projects destroyed or damaged in the Jamaican economy because of the actions by these corrupt persons who are working with attorneys to defraud us of property and, in fact, capital in the form of money damages. And I don't plan to spend the whole of my life or the rest of my life dealing with those people. And we did that to expose it because the objective, primary objective, was to effect change in that direction, become a force in creating an organization or people that will help to restructure how we manage those facilities. And if you notice, I said manage those facilities because that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm saying we don't just allow them to run themselves, we start auditing them, we manage them because unless we do that, we won't be able to move to the next level. And when I started with the plan of developing this country, Jamaica, the objective was to move Jamaica to the next level on par with Dubai, the Emirates, North America, Panama, places where you have mega structures being built. You have billions of tourists coming into those areas, spending mega bucks. And therefore, the country would itself now be generating so much in terms of revenue that we could diminish crime and violence because we can help to force, being a force in pushing up living wages. If you have a big enough investment in the country and you have enough capital, then you can also influence the other retailers, businesses, and all of that operate. For example, one of our strategies in the first place was to include local Jamaicans into ownership into those projects. And ownership in real estate, we say equity. So, and I say, and I smile because that was one of the problems with the FSC. They didn't know the difference between real estate equity and equities market. And you have people like that running a securities industry. How come? George Roper and Brian Winter, that's who you had there and that were there. They don't know what the difference between equities in real estate, equities in terms of stocks and bonds, and equity in real estate. We already explained to equity in real estate really means ownership and the ownership of especially that portion of the real estate that's the difference between the what's owed on the property and the capital gains on the property. You have equity in the property where you have an excess of wealth in terms of the difference between what's owed and what you can sell and make on top of property, capital gains. So they didn't know that, but that said, we won't waste our time on people like that because that's what they've been doing, killing us by delays. So the objective we had, still have, is to do our projects because we have them laid out. They're extremely good projects. A lot of thought went behind the projects. Not only a lot of thought, but we went into these projects with the sole intention of not only building wealth for ourselves, but to ensure that the country, primary country of our, virgin takeoff for these projects would have been in Jamaica. And that's for good reason. But I said our plan was to, and still is to build throughout the Caribbean. Because the Caribbean is probably one of the nicest places in terms of uh, potentially vibrant and long live or living tourism market. You can see where we're located. And all these other islands that are there, the East Indies, the smaller, the Lesser Antilles, the Greater Antilles, they're excellent in terms of the geography, the features, and what. We just have to put in the attractions because people don't want to just see buildings. People come to see nice buildings, yes, but in terms of tourism market globally, if we're going to be competing, we have to compete like with Florida, Disney, you know, um, Great Adventure, all those places that have theme parks. We have to compete with them, and so anything we're doing, we plan to make sure there are attractions that would be beneficial not only to our projects but to the um, businesses that were around. So some of the things I'm going to be talking about, and in fact, inviting you to prepare yourself if you want to get involved with owning real estate that puts money in your pocket. And that's how we designed the project. We didn't just design it for people who wanted a place to stay or live. We designed it so that people would have income generating property that would pay the bills, pay the mortgage, left you with residual income that you could put in your pocket. And in fact, before there was Airbnb, we had laid down a master plan to do just that. So again, these people delayed us, so somebody has grabbed the opportunity, and now you have Airbnb, and it's all about Airbnb, and there's other people. But believe it or not, and we have the documentation to prove it as usual. We actually set up our operation, whole operation, to be on an Airbnb type platform before there was an Airbnb. And that's how bad these people have to destroy opportunities, economic development, and even the leadership. People will be leading industries. So I had shown you one of the primary projects that we intend to still launch. These are towers, and I'm motivated for the simple fact that in my research I found that now there are a couple proposals in Montego to build high-rise buildings, but the proposals are pretty much, the typical. They have a resident. A lot of them are looking at the mixed-use component, which we were the first, again, to introduce that mixed-use component. In fact, when we introduced it, they didn't even know what mixed-use was. So we go and take credit where credit is due because when we get out there, we want you to know we have a superior product that's going to compete with everybody there and beat them because it delivers to you um, a greater opportunity to stabilize your income, both short term, long term, and into retirement. 'Cause that is what we're about. And so we've put the information out about the corruption because we intend to fight that because we don't want it to stop us again. That was one of the reasons we were waiting on the courts. I would say once we would have gotten through that, it was a breeze. The rest of it would have been done. We had our approvals on at least two of the projects, three, four projects were approved. Some were fully approved, just delayed because we bought out some projects that we revamped somewhat, especially in St. Mary. And so we're doing joint ventures there. But the point is that we were poised and still are poised to take Jamaica to another level, where Jamaica is now on top of the real estate development sector globally. And of course, people travel to locations just to look at real estate. Major the design structures, what's there, the iconic structures, the mega structures. That's what we're there. So I'm showing you. I just showed you our games again. We showed you already on our previous video. So the hummingbird towers is what we had themed it. And the reason behind it, the theming of the hummingbird towers, because obviously the hummingbird is our national bird. And being the doctor bird, we felt it was appropriate to say hummingbird, because not only do we want to signal or recognize our national bird, but we wanted to give people the whole concept of a healing, you know, a bird, hummingbird, this miracle bird. And that's what we'll be bringing into our developments, because the idea was to bring medicine to a economy that was failing. And it wasn't enough to just have Doctor's Cave or Cornwall or 7 Mile Beach at Negril. And, I don't want to kick Jamaica, but most of you who have been outside of Jamaica know that singing 7 Mile Beaches is nothing. Nothing. You have places around the planet, including Florida, that have some of the longest beaches, widest beaches with the whitest sand, and it's not in Jamaica, all right? So we had to bring more than just the sand park, 7 Mile Beach and Negril, which is having a problem now as we speak. And I don't know how they're dealing with it, but there's a major problem with beach communities in Montego Bay and in Jamaica, period. And nobody is addressing those issues. And that's one of the things I want you to stick up on now. I'm always working to give you information that's relevant to your survival and your growth economically. Now, of course, all of us know about global warming. Global warming, yeah, that's it. And what comes with global warming? You have sea levels rising. And I guess you've seen, in fact, we had started a drive to 6 year drive when they started this to buy up Jamaica's beaches and waterfronts. However, we went in it knowing that there was a global warming and sea levels were rising. In fact, in the Bahamas and in Florida, you already have those effects where you have streets flooding, and when you have high tide, water is coming in, and some of those areas are already losing valuable real estate and land because of increase rising in water levels. Now, the rate of rise may vary, and some people predict it's going to be over a 100-year period, 50-year period, but nobody truly knows. It's like Mount Vesuvius, or was it Mount St. Helen? Mount St. Helen, they used to say that kind of eruption takes centuries. And Mount St. Helen erupted in like a 2 week period and had all the features of a century or 1,000-year-old earthquake. I mean, I'm always saying to look it up. Please look it up, because even though I have knowledge of it, in short, look it up to verify what I'm saying. That these things could happen long term, or they could happen in a snap of a finger. You never know. So one of the things I'm saying about the beaches and waterfront in Jamaica, don't go spend your money on property that's on the beach, especially if you don't have a cliff face sitting on. If it's on a cliff, then fine, because the water levels won't get to you that quickly. But if you're on a beach and you're in the wetlands on along the coast, you don't want to spend your money there right now. Because it means whatever you build there, when high tide comes in, it's going to flood your house. And you're going to be in the swamp anyway. And what happens is when you're doing your construction, if it's not done according to proper engineering standards, which is not being practiced in Jamaica, especially when you're building a single family home, then it means you're going to have settlement issues, cracking, and your house is going to lose value. And eventually you have to give it up, because if the sea comes in there, what are you going to do? When you have hurricanes, you don't have a mighty seawall blocking the sea. And even if it's blocked, it's going to flood around that wall and come in anyway. Your neighbors probably won't have any seawalls put up. All you people who have been out spending millions and millions of dollars to buy a waterfront property. Yeah, if you spend your money already, you're going to lose your money. And if you rush and build on it, you're going to lose your investment. And look at Miami. Don't just take my word for it. Look at Miami. In fact, Miami introduced a new building code or standard that any new structures that's going up, especially mega structures, they're building them like 30 feet above, from 20 to 30 feet above the existing topography. And that's to compensate for future rises in the ocean. Houses are being built on stilts and all of that. And if you check the sales data, you'll see a lot of people in those high-end areas in Miami moving out, heading north, or going into black neighborhoods that were on high ground, and now through gentrification, squeezing out those people. And I think there's a major section of Miami where a lot of Haitians used to live. That was not quote unquote the nicest neighborhood, but Haitians went there and they built communities they occupied. Now they're fighting to stay there because those other people are pushing them out to get those high grounds to build on. And so the same thing happens in most cases. A lot of Florida in the areas that are high end now were owned by African Americans or Native Americans or Spanish people, and they didn't take the opportunity to develop those parts. They lived in it and then they got squeezed out. Of course, when you get squeezed out, you have to run out to old areas that these other people are moving out of and paying premium, and they're moving into your communities, and you can't buy back in there. That said, if you're looking to spend your money in Jamaica, be careful where you spend it when it comes to real estate. Waterfront is nice, and sitting along the water, you've heard me say, sitting along that water is so relaxing. It is. It's therapy. I used to go to Doctor's Cave, Cornwall Beach, even out Fletcher's Beach, which is now where they have the new park, and just sit and taking the ocean waves. Reality is stepping in though, in terms of from an investment perspective and real estate perspective. You don't want to be on the water at sea level, not when you're spending your money, unless you have a ton of money to go build expensive seawalls with deep foundations, probably driving pilings 100 feet, 200 feet underground, then building on top of stilts, and then dumping on top of that to ensure that you have a couple of centuries of use of the property. Now, I believe that there are solutions to global warming. Well, not global warming per se, but managing the flood waters. It's going to be costly and it's going to take mega structures to prevent that from happening. But believe it or not, I laid out plans to save the Montego Bay area on the north coast from the global um, water rising or sea level rising. Unfortunately, we've been stalled, and it would have changed the dynamics of not only Jamaica's real estate, but in terms of land values. I said in a previous video that one of the problems I have with Jamaica is that they have these overpriced properties that if you buy them for development purposes, it's difficult for you to make your money because the values are so high and it's not really worth it. And I was watching a documentary, well, a video the other day of a gentleman, he's in the grill and he was saying, people are saying, why is real estate in Jamaica so high? And he was like, well, it should have been high over a long time. And he came up with some nice analogy, well, not even analogy, but comparisons that, oh, New York is high in terms of values because it's New York and people live in. No, it's not. New York is high in values because New York has a population of 11 point something million people, and you don't have no land available in New York. Anything you're doing in New York, you have to knock it down and build something new, and that means higher prices plus the kind and quality of the properties they're building in New York attract the kind of people who have those kinds of funds. And therefore, you have a high demand. And where you have a high demand, you're going to have increased prices. So let's not go with this sales technique because you're selling real estate and tell people, oh, buy in Jamaica because it's Jamaica. Buy property for values that you can make back your money on, or don't buy it at all. So forget this nonsense. I mean, nobody loves Jamaica but more than me, but the reality is don't go spend your money more than you have to pay because it's not worth it and it's not going to worth it in the long run. If you buy a property and you pay too much for it, you never make back your money out of it, especially if you have to take a loan to build on the property. But for those realtors who are selling that nonsense, please stop and give people real economic arguments when it comes to demand and supply. And it's demand and supply that will result in you making the kind of return you want on your property. All right, I hear the phone ringing. It's a kind of way from me, so I'm not going to get it. Let it just ring. All right, so we're going to be putting up this 125-story structure as our beachhead project. And the reason we're doing that, again, is to put Jamaica into that level of being ahead of the game in terms of real estate and mega structures. And this project was designed from day one to accommodate persons, well, I would say ordinary persons, but persons who had a quick mind in terms of investment. So we structured it so that, in fact, in some instances, if you didn't have all the money and the banks wouldn't finance you, you had a deposit, we would finance the rest. So we decided to do this structure. I'm just going to read a little bit about it so you understand where we're going with it. And one of the things I'm doing this, and this is going to be a quick video, is that I want anybody that's interested in investing in real estate that's going to go up in value, that's going to make them money in the long run. Don't just run and buy because they're building in Montego Bay and you're paying $400,000 or $500,000 for a minimal square footage bedroom unit. You want to buy a structure that, if you want to sell it, you have an instant buyer. That's what we were proposing, or are proposing. Our plan was to sell you a unit where you'd be making money, and if you change your mind, you wanted to walk away, there would be no penalties. We wouldn't fight you. We'd do that. We'd buy the property from you, having first option to buy. That means buying it back from you. Or if you can't find a buyer, you can sell it to the higher buyer. And we could make a pre-arrangement on the repurchase before you're even contemplating selling the unit down the road. You'll be making so much money on the unit, you pay out for the unit in the short run, and you still be making equitable returns on your investment in terms of the real estate. Not giving you investment advice, just telling you practically how we had structured this to work. So if you have an interest in investing in real estate, don't go rushing to buy anything right now. But I figure we should be able to start going on the market with these products by end of June latest. We had planned to do it in January, but we said we would get these videos out on the corruption, fight that issue, and then once we got the information out, we would at least put the shine the light on the corruption that's holding up development in Jamaica, and so that we wouldn't be handicapped once we started to go forward. So that's the plan. So again, you purchase a unit or you lease a unit, we're giving you talk about the long-term ground lease option on the commercial side, which I'm pretty sure you can do your research. Nobody in Jamaica is going to give you a 40-year lease on a high-end retail commercial space. We are doing it. Nobody's going to sell you a unit where you only put on a percentage of it and hold the mortgage yourself. We are proposing that. And those of you who are in the international market, especially in North America, you know how difficult it is to qualify for financing. For one thing, the local market, the local banks don't have the kind of capital to finance the kind of project we're putting out solely because they don't have the kind of capital. You probably would have to rely on real estate and your savings and your banks in the US or wherever you live. And when you have banks in the US looking to finance persons outside the US, then the rate is much higher. The percentage they lend in terms of the equity on the property, the loan to value ratio is much higher, which makes it very difficult for you. So what we set up was that you could tap into equity in the US, for example, or Canada, use that equity itself to buy the unit. We hold a second mortgage. and make sure that we also, if your bank is willing, to give that bank a guaranteed letter of repurchase or to take over the mortgage if you run into trouble. So, giving a lot of stuff, and I'm putting out some proprietary stuff out there that you probably will see some other developers start adapting. But if they don't understand what they're doing, it won't be beneficial to them. So we've set up to do this 6.6 billion direct investment into the local mobile economy by building this mega structure. And towers, hummingbird towers, three, in fact, there were one, two, three, there were five towers to be built. Most of them would be 17 point something stories. Then we had the 125 mega structure. We had, in fact, four towers that were 125, and they were divided up into hotel condominiums, units varying from a one bedroom all the way up to um, penthouses. So, and the smallest unit we have on the plan is 1,200 and I think 14 square feet, which is pretty big for a one bedroom anywhere in terms of condos. So we had on the market for that, and in fact, we already have a take on one of the units because one of the things we started to do with our real estate club was to put units into a raffle, and our members will be entitled. So we're doing a couple. We have a gentleman in Mandeville and his family who actually owns one of those units already because he was the first winner. And it means we have to deliver that unit to him at no cost to him. And those are some of the things that, again, these people interfered with. Our objective was to pull in Jamaicans and local people so that they would become owners into prime real estate and income producing real estate in the tourism sector to Jamaicans, which means, again, the economy is getting super strong, attracting other investors doing mega structures that we be doing. And we have a whole slew of them. So this was a 5,080 room, 125 story hotel condominium. And I say it was proposed for Queens Drive. We initially got our approvals, our NEPA approvals and Parish Council outline approvals at, sorry, at 21 stories, but we subsequently decided once we had lifted the injunction, to push the structures to the mega level at 125. And are no building codes or restrictions on the height of the building that exists even today. So there should be no reason for us not to get the 125 story, but that's another thing I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna ask you if you support us building that mega story or mega structure of 125 stories. Please, in your comment section, tell us that you support it, you want to have it done, because we're going to launch a petition as well, so that when we go into approvals for the construction, not financing, but the construction itself, drawings being approved, we want to present data to whosoever that this is not only, we not only have approvals at 21 stories, but people are in support of our mega structure at 125 and higher if they want. Because I take it to the next level. We go to 150. And we believe the market can support it and it's necessary and needed. So why stop? Now we are positioned in these developments where we can resist ocean levels rising. The lower tier of the development is a little above sea level, but it's way back from the sea. We're at least um, 300, 400 yards from the sea itself. So we backed up along the cliff. That allows us to build, retaining our seawalls to protect the project from any sea level rising. And so that our development and your potential investment in real estate would be long term. It wouldn't be affected negatively by sea rise. And in fact, the sea rose high enough, we would be underwater itself. So those other units out there will be flooded out, and those hotels that's built on the beach, a lot of them will be flooded out. We would end up with probably a beachfront in some cases because we would have a massive seawall. So we have factored all of that into our development. And I can guarantee you that if you're looking at any of these developments that's being done now in Freeport or on the market, they don't have any seawall plans, or they're not even elevating the structure above where sea levels are projected to rise in the next couple of years. So look into that before you buy, and buyer beware. You don't want to spend your money on an insurance company say, well, it's going to in a flood zone, so we never covered you, we're not going to cover you. But when you were buying it, that's the situation. Development will generate needed employment opportunities, which we discussed, and we're looking at doing this long term. So again, quickly, I'm winding up. I'm going to go into more details on these projects. Please subscribe. Please hit that button and share, because now you're going to help us to change the dynamics of the Jamaica real estate market, the economy, rid ourselves of corruption and crime by us actually doing major developments and leaving these guys out who have been suppressing the country's potential. We don't have any intention for them to shut down these developments. They're pre-planned, they're laid out. The kind of planning that went into them has never been done in any project in Jamaica. We looked at standards that were North American based before they even changed the building codes here. So we have things built into our project, including rooftop gardens, storage and water tanks together, rainwater. So we don't have the runoff or the drainage causing additional flooding. We are putting in our own lift stations to pump sewer to the treatment plants. Because what happens on the bottom road, a lot of the time now when you have flooding or you have clogging of the sewer line, you have flooding and that sewage comes out on bottom road, which is Jimmy Cliff Drive or highway now or something. And you can actually smell the odor. So we propose, even though we didn't need to do it, we propose putting our own lift stations. In fact, the engineers that looked at our project say our projects are going to be so high that gravity would push along the sewage anyway. We wanted modern, ultra modern construction techniques, so we introduced a lift station that we push the thing along. So we're environmentally friendly. We're going to do as much in terms of solar as we can, and that does two things. Helps to reduce the energy bill for Jamaica, so we can help to control inflation. Also helps to reduce the cost to you, the owner, or potential resident, because now you don't have to pay those super mega JPS bills for high electricity, especially when you have your guests. Because again, we're doing it so that you can become one of the quote unquote Airbnb owners of units, and our unit starts at 1,200 and something square feet, right? On the main structure here. We have another structure, which is the Antoinette, another tower, which is running along Sunset, but we're not focusing on that because I told you we're dealing with issues with the guy we're doing the joint venture with on that one, where we bought the development, right? So technically we own the development, right? But they did some stuff that stopped us from going forward. So we're not really focusing on that. We're going to focus on this 125 structure, the three-tier towers with the elevated gardens running along Queens Drive overlooking the bay. And the development itself, as I said, our intention was to break ground a while ago. That's been delayed. So we need to plan a new starting date. But once we start, we can complete the project in 3 years. Again, we look at international standards and the kind of builders that will be putting up a structure like this. I won't be going out and spinning any concrete, obviously. So we're bringing in the right engineers and persons to do the project. Because not only do we want the right engineering so it stays up, but we want people to be confident that they have delivery dates are met. So any company that we're using to do the project will have to sign contracts to deliver on time or it's going to cost them money. And so we can move one of the world's tallest buildings along quickly. And so that we have a 3 year build out, plus or minus. We don't know if anything might pop in there like COVID again. However, COVID shouldn't really stop production again because most of these structures now, you literally use less labor and more machinery, mechanized. We have indoor parking garages with a capacity of up to 18,000 cars, which means that we don't have to worry about you and your car, though we are encouraging people to buy vehicles that you don't need it because you're in town, you're right by the airport. You can literally jump the fence and go in the airport, or we'll give you a lift, a courtesy lift to the airport, or pick you up, and which is creating our own shuttle. And again, you want to look at this project as something to seriously consider, all right? Because we want to tap into that 50 million, 60 million tourists that go to Florida. You can imagine if 60 get back into Florida, we have 120 or 150 million who can't get visas into Florida. The development has water attractions, it has rooftop gardens, it has um, some really proprietary attractions that we're putting in there that will not only serve our guests, but guests from the other hotels that's being built, which means if you own or control retail space here or a condo, sorry, it means the likelihood of you filling that unit, you'll be able to make a lot of money in terms of occupants, rate of occupants. When we did our projections in terms of money and earnings, we actually did our calculations per unit rented, not at 100%, but we did it at $50 at night. Now you know that you can't get any place of any quality for $50 per night. So we did that because we wanted to show people that you will be making money even at that low rate. And as I said, all the details will be given to persons who are interested. Sorry, and so that you can make your decision with confidence as you, which is my primary objective in everything I'm doing. We have cave diving attractions, we have rock climbing walls, we have entertainment products, we have a lazy river lagoon on top of the one of those towers, we have an aquarium, we have a 7 level forest preserve featuring restaurants offering authentic Jamaican cuisine. We have over 30 something restaurants, award winning restaurants, both local and international. We have an IMAX theater cinema that houses over 1,600. As I said, the complex will be illuminated because we employ modern technology. So you imagine, well, I mean, Manhattan with those buildings illuminated, or even Miami. So you can imagine flying in and seeing a tower that looks like a hummingbird um, illuminated at night. Um, so quite a few attractions. We have one feature that I'm not going to mention, but that's going to keep the hotel filled for the entire year, literally. All right, so think about it. As I said in the comment section, tell us whether you support us doing the 125 story, and if you do, we're going to eventually fill the document so in a presenter to the marketing persons or to the permitting people for final construction drawings. Yes, we have the support. Thank you. Stay positive as you can. We're moving forward with energy now. We're going to take our business, our fight to another level. And we're not going to make these people stop us. Don't think because I was putting out all that information on the corruption that they're ever going to stop us. No, they're not. As I said, Jamaica is our primary objective, but we're going to be building. We are international. So if we get any more fights out of Jamaica in terms of doing these projects, we find someone else to do it. All right. And we want to make sure that we're going to offer the opportunities to you. Good one. Have a great afternoon. Looking forward to us working together in terms of not only fighting the negative issues, but through positive action, overcoming them. When, as I said, you have enough economic force or might, then you can effect change. That's our objective. Have a good one. Have a great afternoon, and we'll be talking.